So today at the Documentary Media Centre, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Ms. Candy Hernandez from LSPR in Jakarta. And Candy, you're the Director of International Relations and Partnership Office. And it was great to meet you for the first time towards the end of last year when you came to visit De Montfort University. And obviously our involvement together in the Sustainable Development Goal SDG Film Festival. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you too, Mr. John. Thank you, John, for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here at that Doc Media Center.
Great. So,
and I'm really excited to share about the involvement of LSPR and De Montfort University and all the many projects that we have in the past.
Brilliant. So, what I really wanted to pick your brains on really is your kind of quite long and illustrious career working in the media, film, print, television, producing films and things like that. Where did your interest in those kind of things come from? Was it through study when you were younger, or was it kind of more work related?
Actually, it really started way back when I was even really young. Okay. Actually, I was surrounded in the family. I was surrounded by people in the industry already. Like my uncle is a photojournalist in AP, Associated Press. And then I have auntie who works in the television industry. And then when I was growing up, I have an uncle and my dad, they used to produce film. So I was really into that already when I was only 10. So I keep on tagging along with my papa because I'm the eldest, and usually the eldest, since I'm a woman, a girl, so I was like trained to be like a boy because I'm a papa's girl. So that time I really enjoyed like watching him with my uncle shooting and learning scuba diving and doing some I did some few stunts for a film when I was little, and that really hooked me in this, and I really want to be in the industry. But during that time, when in the Philippines, during 1970s or 1980s and 90s, everyone in the Philippines, if you are a woman, you have to study nursing. And my dad also wanted to push me to be a nurse, blah, blah, blah. But I have to like obey and be obedient to him. But it turns out that I think I'm not really a nurse per se. So I don't know how like the changes of the wave like keep me pushing into the field of the broadcast industry, because even though I graduated as a nurse, I took my internship in a television the television station who has a medical show. So they're like, okay, I'm learning how to be a nurse, but I'm trying to sneak into the TV studio and meeting all the people. And I even tried to like I befriended a famous editor in a TV station in the Philippines. I can remember his name is Kuya. I call him Kuya Menard. He was the one who like really trained me how to use the pneumatic machine. Imagine pneumatic machine. I started with pneumatic machine, and he said like, oh, you're a natural and you're a pro, you can easily pick things up. So I was like really interested. So I started my stint in the broadcast industry as an editor in a TV station in the Philippines. So that's how I don't know if you can follow, but I think it was really meant to be that I'm in the industry and not become a nurse.
Yeah, I think I like that, because it's when you speak to people about how they initially got into a particular industry, particularly someone like yourself who plays, a high profile role, not just within the industry, sort of, being the MD of the ASEAN PR network, but also as a role model, if you like, in Indonesia now to your students that are enrolled, particularly women that want to be working in the media industry, journalists, PR, marketing. You've got a real role model thing there, because you've been able to walk the fine line of parental, particularly father pressure and influence, the family, the role of family, the role of religion as well, and culture, And I just like the way that you were able to keep the medical thing by going to somewhere that was making a medical show that was on television. So that was good. That was excellent. That was very good. I like that. That was really good. So it's important. Do you speak to your students about sort of cultural awareness and families and pressures and what society expects of them? Is that still something that your young female students talk to you about today?
Yes, actually, yeah. Maybe there's a lot of students like they are not only my students in terms of academic, but there are some students who still come to me. Some of them, even though they already graduated, they still like come to me and ask some advice. Basically, because when I was teaching them, I always try to motivate the students. Like in everything that they do, they have to like really be like a jack of all trade. Because in this world, like we have to like really competition is really high, and if you just want to focus on one area and you don't want to master that, and later on you just stick with that, you will be stagnant. So I always keep them like pushing them, like motivating them how to like really do things and know things, like wearing different hats, different roles, especially when you're doing a job, because we were trained like that as when I started as an editor and a production assistant in one of for me, that's the pioneer documentary telemagazine show, where I learned everything from of course, my mentor, Chacha Lazaro. She's the #1 journalist in the Philippines. We really owe everything to her, because all our trainings were like really, like you have to be like really disciplined. And you have to be always a team player in this, like especially in this in the world that we are living right now. If you are not agile, if you are not easily to adapt, and if you are a quitter, definitely you will be in the losing end. So I always tell them, like, in this world, it's a dog eat dog. So you have to like really fight, especially us women. It's okay to be women and you can do any role. I always tell them, like, trust me, if you cannot ask a man while driving, putting makeup, while driving, going to the office, they cannot multitask like that. So only women, we have a special talent. And of course you don't want to put makeup while driving.
Yeah,
so
it's a superpower.
Yeah. Like, yes, superpowers. Yeah, superwoman.
And also, I guess you were talking there about the 1970s, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and technology, and I do enjoy talking to the students about sort of waiting for a dial-up collection, or a time before mobile phones and stuff, and obviously the great game changer that the ability to have a smartphone and run a very effective media agency or news agency, particularly around social issues, maybe using something like SDGs, which we'll come on to next. But do you think that now it is easier to be a young woman who wants to have a career in the media because of access to technology and smartphones than your own experience? How different would it have been for you with something like that when you were starting out?
Okay, I always say that we are very lucky as a Gen Xers because our generation, my time, that generation, for me, I think that's the best, because we could like really adjust to the millennials, to the centennials, and we could work both. Like we could like really access everything. Remember, because we learn from scratch, from the analog and to the internet, and to become the digital era. For us, it's like we like easily adapt. But I feel like, because like especially the younger generation right now, because they grew up, everything is instant, everything is just swipe, and I think their patience is not that like really like compared to what we've been through before. Like it's really, everything was manual. I feel like they're really I don't see that much like potential of a young woman or a young man like who really wants to pursue their career in this digital era, especially in the broadcast industry, because what what we have here, John, is like we have, it's always about digging deeper, right? When we tell story, it's not enough just like to tell the story only the icing of the cake. It has to be like, but that's what I noticed, because they grew up in a very instant, in the instant world, so they're like not that diligent enough or a little bit lazy to do further or extend an extra service or an extra mile of working some details on the stuff that that they need to do in this field. So that's where I always like, I teach TV film and video production. Of course, I have to show them the history, from analog to digital, and they were like really amazed. What, you have like that? I can even show them all the first hand phone that I have, like as big as a shoebox, and I was so proud putting it in my belt. True. Yeah. So but they're like so amazed, like how you could like deal with that. That it's so like, for them it's like so out of this world, and they I'm sure they don't want to be able to like experience those, because for them it's like too Jurassic or too old, and it's not up to date. So that's what I'm saying, John. Like generation now, because they grew up in an instant thing, and they're like a little bit lazy in trying to digging further or extending an extra mile to give service or to do their job more better.
Yeah. Now moving on to something like the Western media, you know, for many years, the Western media would dispatch correspondents and journalists to different parts of the world to report on that part of the world. And I think, you know, with the development of the internet and, you know, all the changes in the media field, we've had shrinking of the budget for foreign correspondents, maybe just to capital cities and stuff. But suddenly the realization that the person that is local, indigenous to that area, is not just the fixer or the story, but is actually the producer of the content that is more meaningful. Have you experienced that as well throughout your career? The change in perceptions of Western media, maybe National Geographic Asia, these kind of people, where suddenly you were able to make the content without it being overseen by someone else from a Western nation, but more about the fact that you were making a documentary or a report or a press report that was more important and informative, maybe, because you made it locally?
Yeah, I have a few experiences that we produced with National Geographics before. Like usually, like they call it, it's true. We call ourselves like fixers. So we were like asked like to help National Geographics, and even I did some projects with BBC as well and Reuters. So usually when they have like a big story that they want to do in the Philippines, that time, yeah, we have to like, of course, they don't know the language coming there, like they have to get of course background information before they come in, and they really want to really see things like if the story is going to be like really good for them. So usually they call us, and then they ask us. One documentary that was like very special to me is we have this place in the Philippines. It's in Pampanga. It's called Kutod. I don't know if you heard about that. They did the reenactment of like the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Like it's during every Good Friday. The people in that area, they said it's a culture that they said these men have to undergo all what Jesus did in the Calvary. So they have to carry the cross. They have to do the weeping with the thorns, and they're like really bloody. And I know Nat Geo loves those kind of stories in any places that they go. Taboo stories, that they call it, taboo stories. So I was there, and of course, as a local from the Philippines who understand the language and like really know the culture. So I sometimes when they come in, like they just come in, the producer comes in And sometimes they bring their own camera equipment, but sometimes we are the one who needs to arrange the production team. They rent the facilities, all the equipments that they need. And they're just there to ensure during the actual shooting, everything was set, interviews has been set, translators are all there also to help them to understand the every interviews that they do. So I feel like yeah, doing a story, it's not just like anyone can just come in and you will say that I know this story, even though you did your research, but it's still different if you really have that local touch, like a person who's like really there to really help you and really build the story for you as well.
Now let's talk briefly about the SDGs, because I know the SDGs was where we first connected through our colleague Ben Harbishire and Rhys Davis at DMU through the SDG Film Festival, and your leading role there at LSPR as one of the main organisers and people that are involved in it, and your students. And I've been very impressed over the last couple of years as the showcase award provider as well, if you like, to the event. I get to see all of these documentaries, and young people today have a very kind of different take on the world. They're influenced by technology and stuff. And even recently with your upscales program, to being asked to comment on and provide a talk to some of your staff that were taking part in this, making their own films, was really interesting, because the SDGs gives us the Sustainable Development Goals gives us an opportunity to have a conversation that's about us. You can look at number one, no poverty, and I can look at number one, no poverty, and we can both have our own view of it and do our own reporting. But when we come together, ultimately, what we tend to discover is that we're actually very similar when it comes to different levels and understandings and stuff. Do you find that something like the SDGs is very good for your student body to be able to explore the world around them, that's not about hard news reporting, which sometimes in certain parts of the world can bring you into conflict with the local authority or politics or the government? You can actually come at it from a more human perspective when it comes to covering those stories.
Yeah, I remember the first time when we had the first international workshop with the Montfort University. And that's where it all started, the SDG. We have Rhys and Dr. Ben in Indonesia. Actually, we went to Bali to do some shooting, to do some film workshop. That was the first time I met them. And then that time, of course, Bali. If you're in Bali, definitely you'll be able to come up with stories. You could be able to shoot something that is like really very interesting. And that's the time like Dr. Ben and Rhys like really want to push the SDG film festival. So from that scale alone, actually this SDG Film Fest, we've been doing this since 2018, I think. Yeah, 2018 they were here, and then the first SDG when we launched our new building in Bakassi. So we did the first film festival there, and I think Dr. Paul Smith was also there that time. And I can really see that like with this SDG, this is one program that I have that I'm very happy to say that it's very sustainable, and like I don't see that it's going to like just end like that without having a big fight. Like it has to happen. It has to happen every year. Actually, when the pandemic broke up, I feel like, oh, we're not going to have our SDG, but we still made it, even though it's online. And eventually, the transition from producing during pandemic is like, I know it's a challenge, but hey, we are all producers. We are all, no one can stop us in telling a story and in producing something. So when we had that several SDG Film Festival already, I felt like anyone from different parts of the world, whether you are from that part of your world, like in UK, students from UK combined with the students from Indonesia, especially with the transnational, remember we had the transnational filmmaking with Mr. Rhys. I could see like even though we're all on a different part of the world, when it comes to telling a story, we could connect. Yes, we will have different views, but in the end, like it's still the same. Capturing the essence of telling the story, capturing the visuals of every shots that we have taken, whether it's in the other part of the world or in Indonesia. Sometimes weaving them all together, it's just like really wonderful. It's like giving every extra flavor in every stories that we have. So for me, that is really amazing, John. That's why I feel like this SDG will continue to be like rolling. I know we have before we started with LSPR and DMU, and now we have several university, and I think with the addition of Coventry University, it's going to grow bigger. And of course, we wanted it more. I don't know if Dr. Ben already shared that it has to be like it has to be an organization or an NGO that we could do this. It's not going to be tied up in just one university, but it's just going to be an independent organization that we can run this continuously, and then maybe who knows, our next protege, our next students will be running this for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we need. That's what we need to happen, isn't it? We want the students to come through this experience and be able to do that. So my final thing that I'd like to ask you today is, it was really interesting looking at all of your students' work, and very similar to my own students in that they have their world is like the room where they are. They see the world through their smartphone. University expands and broadens and maybe increases their horizons slightly. So when they're picking these subjects, it's very much around, stories that they see on the way to university or somewhere that they've been. To do the upscales version for your staff was very interesting, because it was much more about their city or their country, or and obviously Indonesia has many islands, so talking about things that were going on over on another island that were fantastic exemplars of sustainable development technology, that really was more about that documentary. You could pick that up and shown it on international television as something that someone should be able to help and then roll out. Do you find that in your role, both commercially at LSPR and also as a lecturer, and then also as maybe a confidant doing personal tutoring, that you're constantly just trying to get your students to realize that the world's just a little bit bigger than where they are at that particular moment? And if they understand that, there'll be more opportunities, because it's understanding how the world operates and functions.
Yes, true. Actually, John, I think we just need a platform like what we have right now. It's a platform for them to like showcase like the stories that they want to share. And yeah, it's true. The world has become so small because actually not small. It's become bigger, but in just
Bigger and smaller.
yeah, with the use of the internet, with the use of our smartphone, we could like share everything. Like right now, people share anything, and people can have their own channel. People can have their own podcast, and with this, I feel like students have to understand that bigger opportunity. I'm always like a fan of as a lecturer, I always push my student, like if there's an opportunity to have like to attend student exchange, or like just really go out from Indonesia, because they will see. I'm sure, because every time they come back, like students who came from student exchange, they're completely a different person. Their perspective is widen, and they see the world, and they see the opportunity outside of Indonesia. And I think, yeah, even though you're still in Indonesia, but you have this platform that you could showcase what you have inside Indonesia. I think it's a good way for them, and it's a global opportunity for everyone, especially for the young generation, to like really grab grab every opportunity. But as I told you, John, it's not easy. We have to like sometimes like really push them, because as mentioned, they got used to the instant world and they don't want to do extra mile. But if you push them and if they see like, oh yeah, what you're saying, Miss Candy, is right, and I can see that there's like big chances for me out there. So that is our role, maybe one of my role in LSPR, and of course connecting with the right network, with the right university, especially with DMU. Our partnership is like really very valuable to us at LSPR, and of course we want to continue what we're doing, and I'm sure it's not only the SDG, the transnational. We will still come up with another level of how to create stories and share stories.
That's brilliant. Listen, thank you very much for
don't know
taking the
if-
time to speak to me. I really appreciate it. I know you've had a busy day there. And we're coming up for what, 9:30, so it's 4:30 where you are in the afternoon. Have a good evening with your family.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, John, for this opportunity to share to everyone. And I hope I could do that also. Vice versa, you will be interviewed in one of our TV show. Definitely, I'll be sending an email to you. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
No problem. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.